Got a Photoshop question? Brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. It's Ask Dave.
This question comes from Marianne Harworth, who says, I've heard there's a difference between Camera Raw and CS5 and CS6, but I don't see any difference. It looks the same to me. And that's a good point, because what will happen is if you open in CS6 a Camera Raw file that you've already edited, here's what will happen. So here's an image that I'd previously edited in CS5, and the sliders look the same as always: recovery, fill light, blacks, and so on. This exclamation mark is telling me that I've already worked on this in CS5 or earlier, so therefore I'll preserve Camera Raw the way you're used to, but if you want to go to the new process, you just have to click this little exclamation mark. Now, before I do that, take note of a couple of things. This is the way the photograph came into Camera Raw previously, and I just moved one slider just a little bit so it would record something. But you can see there's a bit of a highlight warning on her face and a shadow warning on her shorts and her hair. First of all, watch what happens when I update to the brand new Camera Raw process, the 2012. When I just click, it automatically looks better. There's something in the engine itself that just does a better job. But also notice now the sliders have changed, because when you open one from a previous version, it preserves the sliders that were in the previous version of Camera Raw. When you update or you open a brand new one that's never been processed before, you will see these sliders: exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites, blacks, and so on. Now, my first reaction is, oh no, I used to use fill light a fair bit, and I used to use recovery very often. Well, now you don't have to worry, because you kind of follow what Adobe would call a top-down process, where you start with exposure and say, okay, I want the exposure to look like this. And then you decide, do I want more contrast? If the highlights are a little strong, you can lower them. If the shadow's a little dark, you can lighten them up. So the equivalent of fill light, the equivalent of recovery. So now you can see how I can kind of go in and very quickly make the kind of adjustment I want, and it actually does a really nice job. So to answer the specific question, that's why when you first open in Camera Raw, if you're opening one you've already worked on, you won't see the new sliders. You have to either click on that exclamation mark, and just so you know, under this camera calibration tab, you can see here are your choices. This is the new Camera Raw. This is the one you are probably using unless you had a really older version. So if you really wanted to, if you decided for some reason that on this particular image you weren't getting the results you wanted and you really wanted to try recovery or fill light, you'll see when you choose 2010, it gives you the original sliders. But again, look, it just doesn't look as good right away. So personally, one of the first things I do in almost every case is click that little exclamation mark to take advantage of the new sliders in Camera Raw.
Ask your short Photoshop question using the contact form here at Kelby TV or through Twitter at Dave Cross. Thanks for watching Ask Dave, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals and the Dave Cross Workshops. We'll see you next time.